Hello and welcome. My name's Campbell. This is Spiral Up. We're back with Howdy McCoskey for another chat. Rules of the Realm. How you going, Howdy?
Hi, Campbell. Nice to see you again.
Yes. And we were just having a bit of a chat. We're probably going to do a bit of a shorter one, about 40 minutes today. So we'll jump straight into it. And I mean, what I've been feeling in the energy as well, but Howdy's just brought up a few other points is, playtime's over, right? We've been going through this sort of whatever, right, for the last 3 years, and really everyone's been sitting around talking about what they want to do and, sharing all this stuff, but not a lot of action's been getting done by us. And of course, we can see now that all this stuff that we've been sharing around and focusing on, it's really just distraction, right? Because well, we've been sitting around, the enemy hasn't, right? They're busy. So, yeah, what do you reckon? Time to get a move on, Howdy.
Yeah, it's one thing to try to understand where we are, and I don't think that should stop. But you've also got to recognize that we're living a particular situation of experience, and if you don't acknowledge the experience you're actually going through, if you kind of, I guess the word I would say, a lot of people are still in denial. They still are. They still believe, the cavalry's going to ride in over the ridge and save everybody. It's all going to be fine. A year from now, it's all going to be wonderful. They just can't wrap their heads around that. We're literally 8 or 9, 10 months away from never fixing this at all. That's maybe the window we've got. And if we don't get through that window, we're never going to get through it. I think the denial is still really strong with the average person.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing is, we've, the last couple of generations had it so good, right? But we know what happened back in the 40s and the 30s and the 20s, we know what happened, right? With genocides and all this kind of stuff and starvation and destroying cities. And, most people I don't think can grasp or don't believe that's going to happen again, right? They don't think that kind of thing can still, and the truth is it's still going on anyway, right? It's just not being shown to us in certain countries. We don't see it. But this is the thing. It's all good and fun to talk about, creating rah and doing this, but you do also have to be realistic at the end and get out there and do some action.
And I think what surprised me most about I might say our community. So people who particularly looking into historical stuff, they're acknowledging all of these previous resets, and they're using now that word, right? There's been these resets in the past, and humanity's been crushed, and we dig through the rubble, and we show the pictures, and we discuss it, and we show the change. Well, we're in a reset now. There's nothing in our history to indicate we didn't go through one. The resets happened, everything got destroyed, and the new world was created. So why aren't people kind of saying, well, crap, it's going to happen again? The thing, I've been waiting for someone to be able to come up so far and kind of say, you know what I found? I found a time a reset was supposed to happen and it didn't. It was stopped, or it was altered, and here's the time frame. Here's how it happened. We don't have one of those. Everyone, at least of what we've studied, the resets happen. So why should this one magically not happen? And I think, again, I think the history research we've done should be telling us how huge of a moment we're in.
That's a very good point. Yeah, we tend to sort of want to get, tied up in the excitement and the wonder of it all, rather than, like you said, but we're like showing the pictures literally of these buildings that are covered in mud, and we, and all the catacombs and stuff filled with, bones and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, we know it's happened, and this is the thing. If we're going to get through this, we need to start making some plans and make sure this is the first time we do get through it, or at least that we're we give ourselves the best chance to get through it, right? Because we know people are, get through each reset depending on what it is. So yeah, I think like there's too much umming and ahhing, and that there's definitely no way that the system's rebuilding itself, like it was, or any way in our favor in this waiting for a savior. There's obviously, some, people in America who are waiting for a certain person to come back, but I mean, that's been going on for a long, long time. And, the whole time of that thing, it's always just, it's coming, just wait. And the thing that gets me about that the most is that tends to be the message. Just wait, like you don't have to do anything. It's all being done. Just don't take action kind of thing. Sit down and we'll take care of it. I mean, that's a big red, red light for me, a big red flag. So, this is, and everyone likes to throw around, we are the ones we've been waiting for. Well, what does that mean? Are you the one you've been waiting for? Like, why? What have you done to save yourself? Like seriously, this is, so we've got all these things that we say and we do, but I think it's definitely, we need to understand that, even if there is someone coming, we can't guarantee, right? We don't know. We can't guarantee it. So we can't rely on it, so it's believe it, the good in everything, but don't, rely on it to come and change your life when you can't control it. Because if it doesn't turn up, you're in trouble.
Yeah, I think Campbell's made two really important points here. I'm going to just reiterate what he just said. One was this idea that, I mean, we have to recognize the situation we're in. I'm posting a video today myself of, we've got to use, I mean, we work on the external world as best we can. We can't ignore it, but we have to use that even more to go inward. It's now, if you're not really focused on what's going on inside of yourself and what you're doing and what you're feeling and who's having the experience now, we're wasting it. Like you say, we don't know it's going to get fixed. We don't know it's going to ever get better, but we do know we can use that now. Rules of the realm one, we can go within and we can determine what's beyond the realm. We can work with ourselves. So that was the first one maybe we want to talk about as we go along. And then the second was this idea, right? We're the ones we've been waiting for. We've manifested ourselves for this experience. And well, what about all the people who died 10 years ago? They weren't interested in manifesting themselves for this experience. They wanted to be in and out, and that's okay. I mean, so all of that doesn't make sense. It's a way of making yourself, I think, feel better, of building your own importance, as if I'm more special because I manifested here. But those people 10 years ago, nah, they weren't. They were kind of stupid. They just lived their life and they died, as opposed to saying, we don't really know why we've manifested in the realm at one time or another time. All we know is we're here, we're having the experience. How can we use it? Let's stop playing games. How can we use it to know what we need to know? And whatever happens externally then doesn't matter.
I think, there's a lot of shelf-help going around, isn't there? It's like back in the day, if you wanted to learn about, a spiritual practice or whatever, the information wasn't that easy, right? You couldn't go on the internet for 5 minutes and watch videos and sort of go, oh, now I'm a master. So people, can do that, right? They can spend a day looking at a subject and they sort of think they know something about it when they've got no experience at all, right? So we have these, awake, right? Or, even guru type people. And they just, well, we know what they're doing. They're just regurgitating other people's information, and it's not based on anything. So, we also have this problem of what information are we relying on, right? Who are we listening to? Because the masters, that we used to have, that they're few and far between. There's a lot more noise, right? A lot more information, but most of it is not that useful, right? That something that you can use. It's hard to find these days. So that's another thing is, I think going back to with that sort of self-importance, right? A lot of people, and no doubt ourselves included to some point, is you learn information and people sort of take on information and they're like, I'm spiritual, right? But the reason they're spiritual is because they've watched videos of people talking about spirituality. So if you know what I mean, so there's this self-importance, but it's not grounded in anything, and it's not got no practical value. And I think a lot of time has been wasted in the last few years on that kind of stuff, rather than getting a practice, getting something and then putting it into practice, getting out and actually actioning it.
Help people realize how actually important this conversation we're having is. I mean, this is extreme. Campbell's a great guy, and he can say things that are really nice and uplifting, but listen to the honesty that's coming out of him right here. This is important, because sometimes you have to take a step down and bring it into the, okay, but this is the situation. And yeah, you talked about the old days. I mean, if you really wanted to learn stuff, like you say, there's nothing around. You had to go to the mountain, climb it up, go find that Zen master, and go sit down and probably stay there for 2 months and listen to him, do what he said, carry his water, chop his wood, do his exercises. And maybe after 2 months, he'd start teaching you what was going on. The first 2 months were just seeing, are you serious? And I think that's a big problem. A lot of there are people who are interested in this material. There are people who are, I mean, look at the numbers of some of the channels. Some channels are getting 100, 200,000 views into some of these subjects. But when you ask, but what did you do besides watch a YouTube video today? What exercise did you partake in? What actual work did you do? The number would be very low. And I'm hoping that we're going to we can make a point of a shift here, of that it's time to do. It's less time to gather. You should have gathered by now. What are you going to do with what you gathered?
Yeah. Good way to put it. Good analogy is, and we've had the time, right, and access to the information, and we've all been out there. So, even if we've got to this point and we haven't actioned anything, like, what are we going to do with what we've got, right? We've all got this information. So it's time to do it. This waiting around, it's like I said at the start, the more we wait around, they're still working, right? The people that are trying to sort of lock us down, their agendas are going ahead, and they're pre-planned, right? They know where they're going for the next 10, 20 years. So we now have the information, the knowledge, and we've got to start using it, and we've got to start, trusting it and working on it, because the truth is, at any time we could lose that information. I mean, we are losing it as we speak, right? Literally, they're taking stuff off the net as we speak. So it's time to, So information that's just information in your head isn't much use, but when you know it and you can do it and it's practical, and you can, if you know about herbs, but then you can go and heal someone, well, then it doesn't matter if all the books burn, right? Because you've still got that knowledge. But if it's something that you haven't put into practice, well, it evaporates, right, after a bit of time, if you're not putting it into practice. So I think the big point is we need to get out there and like, stop feeling like we're a bit sort of above everyone, which has been another thing, the whole, we're so enlightened, we're all awake, we're this, we're that, those, silly sheeple, blah, blah, blah. Again, that kind of, a lot of people sort of sit back, and that's their excuse for inactivity, really, isn't it? It's like, well, I'm here and I'm above everyone else. Can I know this? But again, back to the original question, what does that mean? Great, something. How's that going to help you? Like, how's it going to improve your experience? So I think that's where we are.
Yeah, so I'll put myself on the spot first, so that you have some time to think. So we'll say, what would be the first recommendation then? We can say simple recommendation that people can start adding to their lives. I'll give you time to think. So I'll share one first. The first thing that I think people should be doing is some sort of energetic practice then in the course of the day. And it doesn't have to be a lot of time. You put in 15 minutes, whether it's some Tai Chi, whether it's yoga, whether it's some Qigong, whether it's some sitting with a tree and just breathing with the tree. I don't think it matters, but something that feels like when you've done the 15 or 20 minutes, you have more energy than when you started. So I think that would be the first practice, is that we have to keep finding ways to build ourselves, not just physically from the standpoint of the food or the water, the air we're breathing, but as some type of energetic practice that feels like we're gaining energy or we're storing energy. So I think it's simple and it's old, but I think it's being forgotten. And I think that would be the first thing I'd recommend we all start doing in this community. How can we build our energy on a daily basis? Campbell, have you got something that you might throw out as a first recommendation for people?
Yeah, a little bit on the same lines. I was thinking more of like connection, like, and definitely to nature, get out, because, we're swamped, we're swamped with, the system and all the frequencies and everything. So, just go for a walk through some bushland or through the park, 15 minutes a day, start off and keep going, but also connection with people, and we've been talking about this for a bit. We do need to find people on our level, because they're the people that are going to help us get through this. We can't do this on our own. We need to connect up with groups so that when we have problems, we can all put in and help each other. So yeah, I think definitely connection.
Yeah, I like that too. The idea of, connecting with people, and really, because that's another thing. So many, I think one of the reasons so little is going on with people now is they feel alone.
Yeah.
They feel like there's no one they can have real honest conversations with, like we're having right now. That there's no one that they can sit across the table with. And that might be true. It might be very hard to find someone where you live. Of course, the bigger city, the more likely you will find somebody. Uh, it's realizing that they exist. And there's people, look at the comment section below. Look at how many people are just in all of our videos are making comments. And there must be people that you can point out and say, wow, they're interesting. I'd really like to have a talk with them. Well, reach out.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure the person who's just made that comment would be more than willing to jump on Skype for 30 minutes and have a conversation with you. And at least you now feel like you're not alone. And I think Campbell made a really good point here. Maybe you can't find people to start with where you live, but find people at least online so that you don't feel alone in this, so that your mind starts to go crazy. Because as soon as you have a connection, somebody thinks like me, or somebody has an idea like me, or somebody, all of a sudden you gain a strength, because
Yes.
okay, I'm not alone now. And I think that's important, what you were just saying.
And that's often enough just to kickstart people, just to know there's someone who's on my side, right? Because like you said, there's a lot of people who literally, that everyone in their house, right, their whole family thinks they're crazy. So definitely connect up. And like Howdy said, just write someone a message. How are you? You want to connect up sometime, I mean, you never know where these people are either. I've heard so many stories, people send a message and they end up living around the corner from each other. But yeah, and then, start groups, meet up for coffee, whatever. But, we're more powerful together than we are alone. And I think we needed groups going through this, but as we go further along, we're going to need, each other more and more. So, and also the energy, building up our own energy and starting to feel what that feels like, so that we can, because as well as building up your energy, it's also a buffer so that you can start to sense when you're, getting into dis-ease maybe, so we can stop going down to those lower vibrations and sort of, it's all about responsibility as well, isn't it? Just taking responsibility for our lives.
But yeah, we're talking about rules of the realm. Okay, things that we can try to hold our hat onto, that this is the way this experience happens. So maybe we can say that these giant cleansings, resets, whatever you want to call them, are going to happen. What they are, we don't know. How they're are they done by a nefarious force? Are they just, is it just something that's coded into the system that happens whether anybody wants them or not? We don't know, but we know that they happen. That's one thing at least our research has told us. We know they're happening, and we're almost guaranteed it's happening now. Okay, so we're in it now. This new monkey thing is going to take you to another place. I found that they've already run, just like they did a scenario for the the thing that happened in 2020, and they ran that scenario in 2019. They did one for this in 2021. So it's already same thing. It's already been pre-planned, laid out. I got the document on my computer. I'm reading it today, and I'll go into more detail on it. So it's like it's all prepared. It's ready to go. And we have to be able to say, how are we prepared and ready to go for our response to reality, our response to what's going on? And I think it's even better now to, if possible, this would be another possible, if you're going to research something, this would be now my suggestion. Okay, find the previous reset or a previous reset that you think happened in our past, and not just what happened to destroy it. It's like, who made it through? Like Cambell said, who made it through the last reset, somewhat intact and somewhat clear-minded? What were they? What were they? What did they do? Where did they live? How did they go through it? I think that would be a valuable form of research now, is figuring out not just how everything was destroyed. It's instead, who was able to make it through that? And did they have knowledge previous to that? Or was there a particular way they lived? Was there a particular mindset that they had? Was there a particular frequency they had? How can we now research that? Because there's the information we could use more than anything else right now to follow in the footsteps of those in the past who did what we need to do.
Yeah, and pretty much the ultimate rule of the realm, right? How to how to exist in the realm, how to get through these resets. And yeah, I don't, none come to mind, but I mean, there's got to be stuff out there, right? Because clearly we've got writings from different ages that we've still got access to, so there's got to be some story out there of yeah, how they've made it through. So yeah, there's a little, if you've got any information, and definitely leave that one in the comments below. But yeah, this is, I think, definitely, we're like, you've just touched on it again. It's like, while we sleep, they keep working, right? And even if we walk around saying I'm awake, if all we're doing is sitting in front of a computer 10 hours a day or whatever, or sitting on the couch or running around trying to wake other people up, what's really, what are we really achieving? This is where we've got to, this is where the rubber meets the road, right? I've got to get, serious, right? If it is to be, it's up to me kind of stuff. We've got all these sayings, but I think we need to start actually trying to take them on board and live through them. And it's like you said, we've got all this information. So now what are we going to do with it? Like, how practical is it? What can we use? What do we hold on to? What do we discard? What do we go out and put into practice? And yeah. And what's stopping you starting today?
Yeah. So, I mean, granted, I know a lot of you don't, we really don't plan anything when we come on. We just meet and we see where we're going to go, kind of how we're feeling on that particular day. And that's what comes out in these talks. So, I mean, in one sense, it's like, yeah, I wish I had prepared now a little bit for what we were going to say, because then I could have a little more. But part of it is for all of us. It's not just Cambell and I trying to figure stuff out. It's like, how are you joining the two of us semi-live and figuring things out for yourself, and helping share back with everybody what you're coming up with? Because yeah, because you don't want to get, it's easy to get depressed. Then it's easy to just look at the external world and say, it's all going to hell, probably not, yeah, nothing's going to save it, so I'm just going to pack in everything and just become a lump on the couch. And I'm hoping that, even though we may sound a bit harsh here, really it's a call to action to say, how are you going to look at the world, even if it's going to start going over a cliff, to say, I'm not going over the cliff with it. I'm going to already have prepared a way of being, or a rules for myself. There's a good one. Instead of rules for the realm, develop a rules for yourself that you're going to hold on to no matter what happens externally. There's certain things you're going to say, I'm going to do this and this and this every day, and it doesn't matter what the world does around me. I'm still going to follow my own personal rules. Maybe that's a good one to come out of today's talk. Come up with a rules for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, it is. What are you going to do? Because ultimately, you know, it is the system, right, and the distraction that stops people doing things. You know, we all know, you know, New Year's resolutions, and people find things. I'm going to do this, and they go and buy all the stuff, and it sits in the shed. You know, but what is it? You know, I think that's a good question. What is it that, you know, not what is it that we want to do or whatever, but what are we going to do? What can we practically start doing, and what will we start doing? Because it's also got to be, you know, manageable, right? You know, it's no use saying I'm going to go out and change the world tomorrow and make $10,000 in the next 3 days. But, you know, so, you know, it's things like walking. Can I go for a walk for 15 minutes? Can I sit down and do a breathing for 10 minutes? Can I, you know, do yoga or qigong or whatever 3 times a week? So, and then starting with that, and then just building on it, you know, not leaving it there, using that as a springboard to change, you know, your life, so that you're the one that's, you know, you start off with, this is what I'm doing, no matter what the world's doing. I'm doing my walk, and I'm doing my meditation, and I'm reading for 10 minutes. You know, then as you go through it, then you're going to start diverting, right, from the main, and then you build on that. Now I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to do this, because you'll be learning as you go along too. So I think, and we come back to the same point again, right? It's action. We've got all this, you know, I think we're at the point where, you know, especially, you know, I do history, right? We both do history. You know, we can sort of show, you know, star forts and mud flooded buildings till the cows come home. But at this point in time, how's that helping us? You know, how practical is it? Like, you know, we've learned, I think, pretty much everything we can from it. And yeah, you know, 10 years ago it would have been fun to just go down it, but it's not 10 years ago. It's 2022, and you know, look what's going out. You know, we're all sort of bracing, and everyone's saying, oh, there's going to be another, you know, lock up. Can I say that? But what are we doing to stop that? You know, everyone's just sort of.
And the point is, we can get through it. Others, like you say, others made through the last one. Others got through it, or at the very least, there were people the last time who figured it all out and then just said, well, okay, I'm moving to a different realm or a different reality or a different whatever it is they managed to understand themselves. So why don't we do that too? Yeah. Why don't we take total advantage of the, you know, the insanity that's going to get dropped in the realm? Okay, the insanity. Why don't we find our own way to have total sanity ourselves, and allow that total sanity that we hold, and that we literally become like the shoot of bamboo, if we think like an Asian thing, where we become like unbreakable bamboo, and no matter what's going to happen around us, we know where we're headed personally, and maybe a few others we've connected with are going to join us for the walk. Why don't we now take our time to really individually and as a group find our inner strength and hold it?
Yeah. At least for some time a day. And I was going to say, like, no matter what no matter what you think this realm is, you know, whether it's, you know, spiritual or a holodeck or whatever, you know, I think we can all agree that you know, getting better and growing and expanding awareness is really the way out of this, whether it be, you know, any of those, right? We're either going to end up at the pearly gates, right? Or we're going to get our soul weighed, and it's all on how have you lived? What have you done with your time down here? Everything pretty much comes back to that. So, you know, do we even have a choice here? You know, is sitting on the couch, we know where that's going to get us, right? You sit on the couch and watch Netflix. It doesn't matter if it's spiritual, if it's a program, if it's whatever, you're still going to end up going back to the start and having a bad time. So I think we know we need to take action, and yeah, what are we going to do? What actions are we going to take? How are they going to help us, you know? And maybe even, you know, journals, you know, are good. You know, I'm going to do this one thing or these 2 things a day, and then write down that you do them. I did this, I thought, I got this thought. And so that way it becomes more practical, and you know, instead of on just sitting and breathe, you know, it becomes more of a journey, right? Because you're asking questions along the way, more of a quest.
Yeah, I know, like for myself, because I've started to work on my new book, which includes partial novel, partial information, and I've been kind of I've been putting in an hour a day, hour and a half a day or something. And I've started to realize, because I'm thinking I got 4 or 5 months potentially where I think I can probably get it available and people will read it. I mean, if I'm going at the pace I'm going, it's going to take a year. And I don't know if a year from now anyone's going to read it anyway. So if I go at this pace, what was the point? And I'm realizing I have to make some decisions, and I've got to either cut a whole lot of things out of my day-to-day life in order to say, I got to put in 4 or 5 hours a day to get really serious, or stop and do other things. So I'm already, even something as important as my next book, I'm having to start saying, even now I'm not taking it to the level that I need to be if I want this ready at the end of September, because it's a combination. It's not just what I'm going to share with other people through the book. It's my own journey of having to write it, right? To own the words I'm going to put on the page. So what you were just talking about, the journaling and stuff, it just came out for me that I'm having to make those decisions now myself of my normal time frame of how I would write a book doesn't really apply now. I have to recognize the time we're in, and if I'm going to write it and I'm going to allow it to have other people read it, how much time really does it require on a day-to-day basis? I'm having to make those decisions myself now.
And I think that's a good point. It's like, we have to, we're basically, we're in the end game, right? Or we're very close to it. So that's pretty much where we are at the moment. The rulers are getting ready, right, for their sort of big, event. So is what we're doing, is that even, we've got a question, is it worth even doing? Are we just wasting time? It's like you were talking about, if some people may be working on things, and if it's a 5-year project, is it worth it? Is it, whatever it is, could you be putting that time into something better, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Because when we come down to a point where we may have, limited time, we've got to, what you do counts, right? So you've got to put your effort into what counts, rather than just keeping on going through motions. Because, like, again, meditation, and we mentioned this a lot, we're not picking on meditation, but a lot of people meditate, every day religiously, but that's all they do. They sit down, they might put on their guided meditation or breathe or whatever, but nothing changes. So, in practices like that, is that really going to help you in the next, 10 to 12 months? Or would you be better off doing something different? I think is a good one. What are we doing?
Yeah, I think it's again a really good point. Like, it's not so much like, someone say, well, studying history is not valuable now. It still is. It's just, I think you then have to make a shift in how are you doing it.
Yeah.
If that's where you still feel designed, that you still, because there are information out there, like we just said, my suggestion would be, change your focus to what's the most valuable way. Don't just research generically. Then don't just, I'm going to look into another post office. Isn't this interesting? Look at the tower. So what? Use the time then to say, I'm looking for information that's going to help people around the world now for what we're going through. So I think it's just a time to not necessarily change totally what you do. It's refocus.
Oh, yeah.
Refocus your energy to the best possible use of. So you don't have to stop doing things. You just have to say, instead of looking this way, I'm going to start looking here. I'm going to focus on this. That would be another suggestion, is refocus. Don't necessarily eliminate, but refocus your what you're doing in your research.
Yeah. So if it's meditation, you could, try different practices, start writing stuff down, whatever. But definitely we still need to research, because that's where answers are, right? Especially if we're trying to find out people who got through the last reset, that's going to be found in the digging. And we are seeing it a bit, people are starting to do more boots on the ground and stuff, which is really valuable stuff, getting out there. And because we know with books and it's already put there by someone. So I think it comes down to what we've got to follow our guts, right? And ask ourselves, the proper questions. Is this what I want to do? And make sure it's, we're not just getting excited, because people also talk themselves into things, and they get all excited, but, take some time. Does this really feel like the right thing to do? And then ask yourself again, as you're going down, is, if it starts to feel like, oh, this isn't right, well, don't ignore that, right? Because you're just going to end up, it's going to get bigger as you get down the road. So follow your gut. yeah, I think, you know, again, it's yeah, you know, redefine, you know, what can we use with what we've learned, put it into action, and keep, you know, questioning it, journal, use your time to your best advantage, and realize that we're in crazy times, right? If we thought the last couple of years were crazy, well, we might be in for
Yeah.
might be in for a shock in the next, you know, year
Yeah.
or so.
Right. So it's to be then, if we're going to, is again to not let it overwhelm you. The more you prepare for it, not so much to scare yourself.
No.
You prepare for it so that you're not surprised. So that when something does occur, even though it is, you can't fully guarantee you'll prepare for it, but you have at least an idea, then you don't get overwhelmed by it and you get to make better decisions. You get to, and I think if you've got some things that you are saying, these are going to be rooted elements of my life, no matter what happens, whether life gets great or life gets awful. I'm going to keep, these are 3 things I'm going to do every day, no matter what. You're finding something rootable in your life. You're finding something that's going to, that you can hold yourself to. And like Campbell says, as this gets crazier, the question is, how can you use it to your advantage?
Yeah.
How can you use it to what all of us need to do for our own personal journey? And again, that's a big part of just understanding yourself, understanding where you are, what you're here to learn or to do, you might say. What's your area that this life needs to focus on? How does a crazier world allow you to get deeper with that? I'm having sorry, I'm doing a 1-day talk with Bart Marshall. Some of you may have seen, we did some interviews with him, and Bart and I are going to share a lot of this stuff next Sunday. And I'm actually looking forward, because I know Bart doesn't say a lot of things openly on the internet. He waits till you're kind of in small groups or in person. So I'm really looking forward to what he's going to have to say with us next Sunday. And hopefully there'll be more to share on that, because that's where we are. It's how can we take it for our own advantage and not get overwhelmed by it and get sort of steamrolled.
Yeah, and I think that's also a big point, is, you know, don't buy into the fear. Understand, you know, that this is about growing, and we're not trying to be doomsdayers, but we know this stuff goes on. This is just the realm, right? So the only thing we can do is be best prepared as we can. And yeah, you know, to give ourselves the best, you know, opportunities, basically. And the worst thing we can do is pretend that it's not happening, right? You know, pretend that don't worry, someone's going to save us, it'll all be all right, because, you know, what do you do if they don't turn up? It's just someone kicking your door in, you know, and we know this has happened in the past. So yeah, I would say, I think, and the 3 things I think is really good, because we know, you know, people in prison, and they've got through 40 years of prison by reading the Bible for 10 minutes every day. Literally, that keeps them sane. These little sort of practices. So I think that's a big one as well, by Howdy, you know, like, what are the things that we're going to do every day, and let's do them, and you know, maybe even journal them, and keep a record, and use that as a springboard, right, to the path that we're going to take, that's different to the path that everyone else is going to take.
Right. And how much time we got, Campbell? Just so I'm aware.
Yeah, I've been trying to look. It normally comes up and tells me, but I think we're probably close to the end. We've probably got a few minutes, so we should probably wrap it up so we don't get cut off.
Yeah. So again, I would try to get at least one person that you feel is on your wavelength, that you can have some kind of discussion with, even if it's sending an email back and forth once in a while, to even I don't even do daily, almost daily, every 2 days, that you can just fire your thoughts or your concerns, and you know they're going to be able to not think you're crazy and send back their, and now you've also got someone to share your own, when you come up with something, because there's someone you can share it with someone else that might get value out of it. So Campbell's point of find 1 or 2 people somehow. They're out there. There's lots out there. You may think they're not, but there are, and you just have to be a little more creative on how to bump into them. A friend of mine moved to Thailand, somewhere in Asia, and he wound up in a group that has been meeting every week for like 3 years, talking about spiritual like things. And he's found that all of a sudden, by moving to a different part of the world, he's got a group of people that he's talking to that he didn't have where he lived before he moved there. So sometimes you might be surprised what's actually around you. You just have to kind of knock on a few doors and check.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, I've heard that story so many times where people connect, and then they realize that they live in, the suburbs next to each other or whatever, or 10 minutes away, or but even if they're on the other side of the world, we have email, we have, WhatsApp, we have Skype. So you can literally have running conversations with people. And, even if it's one person that's on your side, that will make a massive difference. Someone that, you can talk to and not have to censor yourself, it makes a massive difference. So yeah, I think that's, a huge one. So we've got a few rules there. So, get a group, get some things you're going to do every day, write them down, do them, and most of all, take action and work out what you're going to do differently to what everyone else is going to do. What's your plan?
Right. Let's get out of sometimes get out of your head and get into your body, get into your feeling, get into your experience. So go from take what's here and move it into action.
Awesome.
Yeah, one way or another.
All right. Well, there we go. All right, we better clean up here because we beat the buzzer. We haven't been cut off, so we're doing well. So awesome. I think we covered a lot there in 40 minutes. It seems like we've been talking a lot longer than that. So thanks again, Howdy. Thank you, everyone, for spending some time with us. Make sure you give us a like, subscribe, a comment. Of course, Howdies channel will be down there. If you haven't seen it, go across and subscribe. And we'll be back in a few weeks, and hopefully Howdy will have some new insight with the discussions he's going to have this weekend. Or next weekend, is it?
Yeah.
Next weekend. Awesome. All right. Cheers, Howdy. See you next time.
Cheers.